In today's episode, I'm interviewing Say Gabriel. She owns a content creation agency, and she has been doing this for about 10 years now. And she's developed what's called a 5-part content framework for agencies. And this framework helps you create content for your agency that's going to drive quality, valuable leads without spending a ton of time doing it. I learned a ton, and I think you will as well. Enjoy the episode.
Yeah, in fact, my full name's Sayetta. That's why I went for Say, because easy to remember.
Hey, Say, okay. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on my podcast. I appreciate it. We ran into each other, I think it was TNC or You Gurus or something a couple of years ago, and then we crossed paths again here recently. And I'm excited to talk about your 5-part content creation framework that you have for digital agencies. And Say, you've been writing copy for, I think, 16 years for small businesses and all that fun stuff, right?
Yep.
And all of a sudden, you started working with a family business or something. I think is that what it is?
Yeah. My mom's always been an entrepreneur and self-employed, and she basically put me to work soon as I started learning copy. So,
and then she after the family business, she went in and she realized what she really loves is actually helping entrepreneurs putting in a framework to help get this stuff like systems and frameworks about how to get their content, basically all of your communications and all of that fun stuff. And now that's kind of blossomed, and it's all kept growing and growing and growing. And now you're running your own agency, Nancy. I hope I'm saying that right. It's Anansi, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. But it's pronounced Nancy. Is that right?
Anansi. Anansi is the spider god that gave the world stories in African mythology.
Very cool. Okay. And Nancy serves digital agency, like owners and leaders, right, who are ready to transition kind of out of that day-to-day operations. If any of you guys and girls out there in a content agency or anything like that are trying to get out of or not just content, I'm assuming any agency, any out of the day-to-day operations and become a true inspirational type leader for your organization. Say over here is one of the people you'll want to look up and talk to. So, Say, thank you so much for coming on. And how about you do a much better job than me of introducing you? Go tell us about Say over here. So.
Yeah. Well, absolutely, Lee. Thank you so much for having me on. You know, it has been a crazy 10+ year adventure, and I've learned so much, and I just love paying it forward. So always a pleasure when I'm able to share some of what I have, hard learned, and hopefully make it a little bit easier for other people. So as you said, I have been copywriting in one form or another for over 16 years. I actually, when I was a kid, I really wanted to be a novelist. I really wanted to write a book that changed lives. Heck, I wanted to write like fantasy and stuff like that, create whole worlds. And my belief was that if I could change even one person's life through my writing, one person's life, the way I had been changed by the stuff that I read, I would call my life a success and my work a success. Now, fast forward, a few decades, I've gotten a little bit more ambitious, but basically I'm still on that path. Now, I moved away from writing novels, and I have written a few novels, but basically what happened is I got to university, was on the verge of graduating, and I got this job in student communication services. So this is basically student services, people who are serving the students who are there, really just focused on making sure that they have the absolute best experience possible. And this was life-changing for me because I had never thought of what was basically marketing. Right? Like I was working on website copy. At one point, I was responsible for the whole student portal of 80,000 plus students. I was writing the stuff that was on it, resources, etc. To working with a team of people that just really, really cared about creating value for the students. And this was the first time in my life where it wasn't about money. Copy wasn't just about making sales. It was actually about providing value. And I got addicted to that feeling. And there is obviously every one of those students who went there paid their tuition fees. There's money exchanging place, etc. Some of these services cost money, but just this focus on a bunch of people who really, really cared about creating a win-win situation. And a win for them was a student thriving or just doing a little bit better than they were before. So this was just incredible to me. Yeah.
I love that. No, I love that. And I tell you what, I love your passion. You know what I'm saying? I love your fire. I'm usually the one, people are, I'm usually the one fired up and animated on the call. You and I are going to be going at it today. Okay. So keep it going.
Awesome. awesome. People ask me if I'm addicted. They're like, did you just have 2 cups of coffee? I'm like, nah, man, I'm just excited. This is just me.
What I do. Imagine being, like my daughter or I'm like, what? It's almost too much, right? So anyway, but I love it. As long as you channel the energy for good, it's good, right? So
excellent. That's my belief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I tell you, you hit a point that you just say. In other words, you're writing for value, not just for money. You're writing for the value of it. And it's one of these things you learn in business that whenever you serve a higher purpose, and whatever that is, writing for value, it doesn't, whatever that higher purpose is, you're going to find out that the money will follow, right?
Exactly.
It will follow. So if you follow really delivering value, the win-win, serving that higher purpose, whatever it might be, that's why everybody says when you put a vision statement together, you have to purpose, mission, core, all those fun stuff. Purpose is the North Star. Never achieve it, right? Mission is the Mount Everest kind of thing. And I love having that North Star, that higher purpose that you can never really achieve, but it always keeps you inspired and going. So I love that. So that's super cool. That's
awesome. Yeah. Oh.
Okay, so today the topic is you have a 5-part framework. Okay, we all know out there that we all know we got to be on social media. We all know we got to produce content. We all know we have to do this. Hell, I know a lot of you social media agency out there that don't do it very well for your own selves. The number one reason being is there's no process, there's no framework. It takes forever. Oh my God, it takes forever to create all this good content. I'm not talking about arbitrary, just like brain farting stuff out there. Although I've been guilty of doing that. But I'm talking about putting out good content, and you have this 5-part framework, kind of content for creation framework, specifically kind of for agencies, and you use it for small businesses around. But it's kind of been fine tuned due to the fact you're working with a lot of agencies now. Fine tuned more around agencies, right? So talk us through this. You got 5 steps. What are those 5 steps? And then we'll get into
Yeah, absolutely. So just a point of context for people. So today, basically, we run a content agency that's highly, highly process focused. And basically, we help digital leaders take conversion copy off their plate, like fully off their plate, so that it's no longer this driving stressor that's kind of forcing you to be in the weeds every day, like solving problems, putting out fires, etc. And that encapsulates a lot of different areas. But basically, the ongoing content is what this is talking about, just worthwhile to mention. So this isn't a project content framework. You just need a bit of copy for a website or something. Right. We do have a framework for that. We have a framework for everything. It just makes it simpler. Yeah. But this is really, if you are, that's just that typical case of the cobbler's kids have no shoes. We're the same way, right? We've been in existence 5+ years, probably edging a little bit longer than that now. And we were finding we were producing copy left and right for all these agencies we're partnering with and all this different stuff, all these industries. We weren't doing it for ourselves. So this 5-part framework, I'll just go super high level, and then if you want, we can dig into it, is basically number 1, have your reference material ready. Number 2, pick an anchor channel and a base rhythm. 3, batch your work. 4, leverage a team. Could be your team, could be a different team. And 5, repurpose content across multiple platforms. And I guarantee if you follow these 5 steps, then you will be able to produce just content, right? Value for your audience day in, day out. Well, not day in, day out. That's kind of the point. But
right. I put together a content framework for this new, because in my agency, the way I built that one was more what I call well hunting. More business development. So we went out there and we established referral partners. So we didn't have to be as aggressive with our content creation. Basically, in a nutshell, I didn't have a content creation strategy. It wasn't part of on my radar, right? When I started this coaching business. And boy, let me tell you now it is. You know what I'm saying? It's the cornerstone. Okay. It's the cornerstone. And so I've had to kind of, develop my own little processes. Of course, I'm learning from people and all that. But no matter what you learn, you still got to make it your own. So I'm interested to see how what I created over here stacks up against what you got over here. And I think so far I think I have 4 of them. I think, but we're going to go through this and we're going to talk about it. So let's start out with, let me repeat that 5 steps again, okay? You got to have reference material ready to go. So in other words, that's where you can go get good content pretty quick, something that can kind of help spur creative thought moving forward. Anchor channel based rhythm, that makes perfect sense. Don't try to be everything to everybody. Pick what you got to do. Batch work, that makes sense to me as well. Schedule it out. Or I, like for me and you talked about the other day, I record all of my podcasts on 1 day a month, and I'll record 4, 5, or 6 of them, and then that batches out the content. Leverage your team, big fan. Repurpose content across multiple platforms. Okay, so that's the 5. Let's dive off into number 1. Okay, You've got numerous bullet points here, and for you ladies and gentlemen out there, if you've never actually recorded a podcast, you always have reference notes to the shows. If you're wondering what I'm looking at over here, like that, I'm actually going to our notes. We spend time coordinating. We don't just get out here and totally wing it on here. We always put together a little plan to make sure we're getting the right content out for you, ladies and gentlemen. So let's start off with number one, Say. Have your reference material ready to go. Give us 2 or 3 things that every agency owner, if they knew right now, if they had these 2 or 3 things, oh, great, that's going to help me get creative ideas or get started creating the content a lot faster. That's what this is for, right?
Yeah. So this is overall, like I like to look at overall, this is more about efficiency rather than speed, if that makes sense. So making sure that if you're super busy and don't have a lot of time in your week, you can still be honoring your regular rhythm of content and providing great value.
Okay.
So that's the goal of this framework. So 3 basic pieces of reference material that literally every single agency or every single small business or every single company should have, or organization, works for nonprofits as well. So some of this shouldn't be a surprise. First one is an avatar or a persona.
Yeah.
So this is basically a representation of who your audience is, what their problems are, and how you help them. This humanizes your audience, focuses in, makes it specific. Now, a lot of you probably have heard before, give it a photo, give a name, etc. I'll take it one step further and say that what we found making personas, and we call them avatars, but you hear persona a lot, use those words interchangeably, for well over 100 different projects at this point, is practicality. We really just focus on what demographic are they part of? What are they struggling with in the outside world? What are they struggling with internally? Those are 2 different things, right? What is their emotional response to what's going on in the outside world, right? We have stuff coming at us, and then there's how we feel about it. And then how does that change when they engage with you, right? What are some of those key points that, okay, they were stressed, they were upset, they were overwhelmed, they were scared. How does that change? Same thing in the outside world and in the inside world. And that is really, if you just do that, you will be well set up. So that's thing number 1.
Okay.
Thing number 2 is what we call, or actually my former mentor, Brent Weaver, would call a marketing engine. So this is a path that tells you from that piece of content, how are they actually moving through, your funnel or your process or whatever to engage with you in some way. Like, what is that end result, right? For us, it's usually an introduction call. That from there, we can tell pretty quick whether we're a good fit, channel partner, agency partner, like lots of different options there. But it's not just like somebody listens to a podcast and then instantly they book a call, right? There's something that goes on there in between. There's usually 2 or 3 categories. Could do a whole other podcast on that. But basically something that measures out, right? The whole point of this is usually to get leads, right?
Okay.
To not just get random leads, but to get people who have a problem you can solve and who match your values.
Yeah, I always, as we're going through when the coaching calls us, we're going through the process of creating their products. I always use the term begin with the end in mind. That's exactly what you're doing here, right? So in other words, know what, before you start writing the content, know what the hell you're writing the content for, I think is what I'm hearing. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
That makes sense to me. You know what I'm saying? That makes perfect sense to me. So
and I'll just give a side note here. This is something, I definitely see you living, Lee, is give more away rather than less. This isn't one of the 3 things. I'm just going to put this out there though. If you're thinking about your plan, because the 3rd thing is really having a list of potential topics that you've already come up with that are relevant. You're adding to it all the time as you think of things. People ask you questions. You hear the same thing over and over. Just add it to your list of topics. But if you're tempted to be like, oh, I'm just going to have to answer that so that, they want to engage with me more or something like that, I actually recommend against that. I say, action is the biggest thing that I see over and over and over holding people back. If you show people how you do it, you show people how to thrive, show people how to succeed, they will be twice as eager to come back to you after they've tried it and it didn't work for them. Or maybe they didn't try it at all, or, etc. So just to kind of review 3 things, super high level. So an avatar or a persona, description of who you're serving, what the problems are. Marketing engine, so basically understanding how that initial piece of content is going to lead towards some sort of action of some kind, right? What are the steps in between? And 3rd, a list of topics that you can just add. And this can get way more complicated than that, but I would say just start simple. Complicate later.
A couple other things I want to add in your notes right here. You had having like a course outline template. So I'm assuming creating like a Word document, title, or headline, subheadline, title, subtitle, tagline, subtagline, whatever the hell you want to call it. In other words, have it just a template, right? Same thing on the design. Same thing on the design. Whenever you're putting this content out, you're going to have, like, for example, these podcasts, and again, if you've never recorded a podcast, I'm going to show you how some of the sausage is made per se, right? Right before a podcast, there's almost always like three little mini, you do three recordings in one. Hi, welcome to episode this, whatever it is, and then, hey, say welcome to this, and then she does it, and I cut it off, and then we'll get into that at the end of the show. So, same kind of deal, right? You have a framework, like a design framework. So, we take those three things. We have the music on the pre-roll, the post-roll, and then we have a promo spot. So in there we can plop in whatever promo we want. So we have a little design template, content template.
Absolutely.
Right? So the exact same thing. So, and the reason those are so important is once you've actually know who you're writing the content for, the avatar persona, right? Know why the hell you're writing it. Begin with the and you hand it off to somebody, and they just go do it for you. Now, this is how, as leaders of your agency or the owners of it, that's how you get your time back. Is you work on item, like you work. What's the old? I can't remember. Work smarter, not harder, or whatever it is.
Yep, work smarter, not harder. Yep.
I hear the hustle. I'm quiet. Hey, gotta hustle, but everybody can hustle. You got to be smarter too. You got to make better decisions. Okay. So when you're creating content, don't create content the first couple of times. Create the content outline. Create content, the design templates. Create the personas, the avatars, and then you plug you in where you want to be, and the rest that you don't. Now you have the templates and the outlines just to hand to somebody else. Say, hey, go do this. Right?
Absolutely. And other people can help you with those parts too, right? Like other people, that's a large part of what our business does, but even potentially people within your own team, like this is something that you can scale to basically having a whole other team prepare with you or for you, all the way to you just taking an hour to jot some quick stuff down to get going. But in the end, the more thinking you do up front, the more thinking you've already done the first time or the second time or before any of those times happen, the faster your production will be. Because if you're starting from scratch every time and trying to just invent how it goes and invent the process, oh my gosh, it will. And whenever you're trying to put in a frame like this, for example, I was telling everybody on this show right here, I think it's the third Monday of every month. I can't remember. I'd have to go look. But the third Monday of every month, I record 4, 5, or 6 podcasts. Okay. And then I take those and I hand them over to the team, right? And that creates, from there become Facebook brand awareness, YouTube, blog. We call them blogcasts now instead of podcasts because, we take the podcast and everybody's turning their podcast into a blog, but we still put blogs in there. So we call it blogcast, right? Oh, now you're getting ahead of me, Lee. You're touching on the next few points.
Okay. All right. So let me hush up. All right. So let's get on to number 2. I think this is kind of touching into that, right? So okay. So number 2 is anchor channel and bass rhythm, right? So I am definitely getting ahead of the topic here. So, okay. So say number 2. Pick your anchor. Go.
Basically, people are creatures of habit. That means you. That means me. That means your audience. That habit can look different, but it will be just much, much easier, not only on your production schedule, but honestly, will be beneficial to your audience if you can create some consistency around your content right away. As Lee was just saying, there's also the possibility, and we'll get into this a little bit later, step 5 is repurpose content across multiple platforms. But basically, if you can pick an anchor channel and a bass rhythm that you can commit to, then that can be the nucleus, the starting out point for all this other stuff, and can grow. And the amount of work that you're doing doesn't grow to the same degree. It grows a little bit, but not a massive amount, because most of the work is going into your anchor channel and bass rhythm. Now, what is an anchor channel and bass rhythm? Let me just touch on that. So an anchor channel, a channel is basically your medium. So if you've ever considered producing content, you have probably, just like me, felt super, super overwhelmed. Do I blog? Do I do a podcast? Do I do video? Do I do live streams? Like, there's just so many.
Instagram. What channels are you going to be on? You know what I mean? Where are you going to be at? That makes perfect. Yeah. So the anchor channel is, once again, the one you're committing to, and the rhythm is basically the rate of release. So, and let me just be honest here. It's not always the one that you're going to stick to is not always the one that immediately comes to mind. Like me, for example, been a writer for most of my life, right?
have a whole team, a whole business that revolves around writing, well, you would think that maybe my anchor channel would be a blog or a piece of written content. Well, let me be candid, which is that it's very, very challenging for me. I'm a very social person. There's lots going on. It's very challenging for me to sit down with zero interruptions. I also have mad ADHD, and just pump out something on a written, something long, written, amazing on the rhythm.
2,500 words, yeah, every week.
Yeah, that's a lot for me.
A lot, yeah.
But I can definitely carve out, as Lee put it, we don't quite record the same way. I'm thinking of adopting it, of doing, like one whole day a month. In my case,
Man,
I limit it.
You get such in the mindset. You get into a good
I'm like,
I mean, you get into, that first one is, that first one, I'm trying to schedule somebody really high impact, and then all of a sudden it gets you in the mood, man. I'm telling you, the whole day, kind of, it's like a radio star by the end of the day, so it's cool.
Yeah. So that definitely, and that's step 3, batch. But basically, like, I do find that creating a podcast, like, that's my anchor channel. In case you guys weren't wondering, I host my own podcast called Say It Online for digital agency leaders. Little plug. But basically, that's something I love. I love to do. I can definitely carve out time. I can do it. I can feel really charged. Maybe I feel terrified a little while beforehand. But in the end, I'm in the zone. I'm in the energy. I feel really great. And in the end, that's more productive than forcing myself every week or for a whole day a month or something to just write.
Right. Yeah.
And then, if you're talking about a video platform, right? Again, we'll get into this more in step 5, a video or audio platform. It's a lot simpler for other people potentially to turn that into written mediums as well. But basically, spend some time thinking about, what do you like to do? What charges you? When you're done it, you feel like, wow, I'm a superstar,
Right.
And that might be taking you in the direction of it. Now, it's not always going to be that fun. I'm going to be honest, right? But you want to start out on that positive note. Now, the other thing I'm going to say is that when you're picking your rhythm, I would strongly, strongly, strongly suggest to pick a slower rhythm over a faster rhythm to start. Now, if you have the capacity and you have the team, or you have the income to hire a team, to be doing a piece of weekly content right out the bat, or bi-weekly, or etc., then great. That's awesome. But if you're just feeling really, really gung-ho, you commit to doing a piece of content weekly, and then, in a month or 2 months or even 2 weeks, if you find out that that's really not your jam, you're struggling, whatever reason, then you have essentially kind of made a promise to your audience that you then can't fulfill. Now, it doesn't have to then go down in flames or et cetera. You can be vulnerable. I strongly recommend that as opposed to just stopping. But at the same time, consistency over quantity, I would say. So we started out before the podcast. We just did basically a monthly newsletter with a video with me in it for months. And, and I started to realize, this isn't doing what I want it to do. I think I'm ready to commit to something a little bit bigger, more often. I love weekly content myself.
Yeah.
Right. And then, and I'm saying this, of course, some people tell you need to produce 3 pieces of content weekly, etc. But this is for your anchor channel and base rhythm. And once again, consistency over quantity, and just be real with yourself if you can. Ask other people to be real with you. You have a history of struggling to be real with yourself. Like, this is my plan. Tell it to, your partner, someone in your business that you trust. Just be like, this is my plan. Do you have any feedback? Does it sound crazy to you? And if they go, whoa, man, you are so busy. You're working 60 hours a week. How in the heck are you going to commit to doing a full day of podcast episodes each month or something like that? Maybe listen to them.
Yeah. You just kind of fit them into logic, basically, make sure it, fits into the whole scheme of things, right? So, okay, that's cool, man. I'm what's a one man, so I called your man, whatever. But anchor channel, base rhythm. I love it. People are creatures of habit. I love the consistency over quantity. I'd also put in there quality over quantity.
Yes.
Consistently produce quality content over quantity of content. So. And I will say I've made a lot of these mistakes myself, just throwing content out there, and it kind of comes back to bite you a little bit. And it's nothing you can't overcome, and I will tell you, for those of you who did start it and thinking about maybe starting it again, do it. You learn from your mistakes, and it's good to kind of learn from them and kind of go do that and move on from that and learn from that. So what's number 3? So we got have your reference material ready, and we got pick your anchor channel and base rhythm, and number 3 is
batch your work. So hopefully this should already be starting to be obvious why it's important. But I will say this is because it may not seem like it. Like, for example, I record podcast episodes on Mondays and Tuesday afternoons. And, one week I might just have one week I might have 3. But the reason why I'm so intrigued, for example, by Lee's process of doing them all in one day, maybe 2 days or something like that, is because the amount of emotional energy it takes to mentally prepare yourself to do the thing is almost always more than the energy output it takes to do the thing. So when I have a podcast interview that day, and for whatever reason, I get more nervous when I'm interviewing rather than being interviewed. Maybe it's because, I want to make sure I'm driving that value for my audience.
The rhythm, right? Totally. Yeah, keeping the rhythm.
Yeah. It's like, I'm doing a lot of prep ahead of time and stuff like that. Even that morning, I've noticed that I'll be a little bit more high strung, a little bit more high energy. And after the podcast interview, I come downstairs, my husband's like, wow, what happened to you since this morning, right? I'm like, I feel great. Like you said, I feel like a radio show host. I'm like, man,
hey, I know.
I'm just so charged, right?
Then another thing I found that helps is if you're doing one day like that, and then you can really kind of stage it. I will say today, if not the best day. Anyway, I use this as prop. I use this in my coaching calls. This is actually the bell curve about the coronavirus. We're going through if you're watching this at a later date, we're right in the meat of the coronavirus crisis.
Yep.
This bell curve is my some part with my one-on-one students about how the third gold rush is coming, and anyway, all that stuff. I'm not going to digress any further than that, but it allows you to kind of set the stage and things along those lines, and so get the backdrops, get everything. It allows you to prepare, it gives you more time. It's coming. It's no surprises. You get that rhythm. First one, get the checklist. Boom, boom, boom. The next one, checklist. You just kind of knock it out, right? So, okay, I love that. Okay, so we got 3 now after batch your work. Number 4 is leverage your team. Yeah, leverage your team.
Yeah.
Big fan. I never had a major problem with the whole delegation thing. You know what I'm saying? Never had a problem with that myself. People have a major problem with that. Now the control thing, which is very closely, it's like his cousin of delegation. I had a problem with that one. Okay, but the delegation part, once I got a hang of it, I was pretty good with it. But okay, so leverage your team. I'm assuming just make sure you get that framework in place and you delegate down is what that means, right?
Yeah. Now, I will specify, right? Different people's businesses look different. This is leverage a team. It doesn't necessarily have to be your existing team entirely. And I mean that if, for example, you don't have an existing team, that doesn't mean that you have to do everything yourself. You can hire teams that will help you. And often, more affordably than you would think. Again, it's always one of those things where you have to balance the quality versus cost. But they exist. Teams to support you exist at all levels for all channels, basically.
Yep.
So if you have a team, definitely leverage their skills first. For example, our chief of marketing, when we were first launching all of this content and stuff, she just ended up, when we were reviewing, anyway, last year, we're looking at her work and realizing that even though I had successfully delegated to her, she was spending so much time on admin stuff that she really wasn't able to apply the strategic mindset, which is the whole heck of a reason why we love her and are paying her. Meanwhile, our admin person, so it took a little while for us to kind of identify this because she too, right? She had been given this job. She wanted to keep doing it. She wanted to do it well. But when we finally got on a conversation with our admin person, Kevin, and got him into the mix, he was like, I want to be doing this admin stuff for you. And what we realized is that making sure that people are doing the right context of task for them gives you more than the sum of its parts in terms of time saved. What I mean is that it's not just that, 2 hours she was spending on setting up, the email systems and uploading and editing and all this different type of stuff, writing show notes, all this type of stuff. It wasn't just that she saved 2 hours because she gave those 2 hours to somebody else. Yeah. That because this is his field of expertise, all of a sudden it was not taking him 2 hours to do it because he was able to put an automation here, leverage this here. And now all of a sudden she has more time to be looking into our editing service and realizing, okay, now we want a different editing service that maybe offers this.
And you're getting a better work product. You're getting a better delivery.
So much of a better product. Yeah.
Whenever anyway, in 2012, for a lot of different reasons, I was kind of forced to start handing over delegation, what I call ownership of specific departments in my.
Yeah.
And I handed it over to them, and the next thing you know, all the departments started running so much better and so much smoother. And I was like, "What the hell, man?" I was like, "What the hell?" Right? And then, of course, what it really turned out to be is the fact that I was, doing everything at 20%. I was running 5,000 miles per hour, which is probably the reason I was having some of the personal issues I was going through at the time anyway. Right? So it's all one big cycle. It really does feed off each other. And so now I handed it to these unbelievably capable people, you know what I mean? And they had 100% of the time to dedicate to it. Their 100% was definitely a hell of a lot better than my 20%. That's for sure.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that their 100% won't make mistakes. That doesn't mean their 100% doesn't mean fine tuning. That doesn't mean you still got to groom them and mentor them and work with them. It doesn't mean that your role is over. It just means your role has evolved into the next chain of what it is. Okay, so there's a big difference in that. Okay, it's not like you just hand it over and say goodbye. You don't have anything to do with it. Your role just changes. Is all it is. Anyway. So, but now you've got a really brilliant person dedicated to it, and you'll be surprised. You'll be astonished. You'll be happy. You'll be ecstatic at what you get back, because you're like, damn, that's impressive. How come I didn't do that? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, damn, that's really good. So, so don't be afraid to lean on that team. Leverage that team, man, and let them surprise you. I'm going to slaughter this quote. It was Eisenhower when he was planning for the D-Day invasion, right? Which is still to date one of the largest military undertakings in the history of mankind. And somebody asked him what his leadership style was, and he's like, "My leadership style is more along the lines of inspiring people to get to an end result, not mapping out every single step of how to get where I want them to be." Yep. So in his generals, he would tell Patton, or he would tell whoever it is, right? I want you to go here. Here are the exact phases that I have to have. These got to be hit. Everything in between, I don't really give a damn. Okay, inspire me. I want you to show me how it should be done, because I'm not in the trenches. I don't know what's going on. You should come back and wow me, and that's what you should say. Something you should expect out of your team when they're delegating this stuff, right? I think that applies. Okay, well, that's 4 of them.
Yeah, would you mind if I just add one thing to that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So I was
curious to go. So
excellent. So I will say that, in my experience, if you already have the right team in place and you're delegating to your team, that's exactly what happens. But you will have the occasional time where you delegate to someone and it doesn't, you were putting your 20% in and you delegate it to them, and, you're spending the time, you're working with them, etc., and it doesn't shoot up. I would just encourage you, and I've learned this from hard experience, first take a hard look at yourself, and then take a hard look at that person. And if you take a hard look at yourself, and that doesn't mean blame it all on yourself, right? That just means, like, have I been spending the time? Have I given them the milestones? Have I given them the resources they need? Those are the kinds of questions, not am I doing it?
If I was I would say probably 75% of the time an employee fails, it's a direct, let me phrase that, it's 100% the owner's fault every single time, no matter what. That's what you sign up for. If you don't like hearing what I'm saying right here, you probably are not cut out to be a business owner. I'm going to tell you right now, it is 100% at all times the business owner's fault, because you hired them, you put the internet in place, you gave them the tools, you told them when to be there. In other words, you're the one that dictates everything. You're the owner. You set the environment. You set everything, okay? So that same exact thing applies, not just to the business, but down into the individual employee and department. So if you just say, the best example I can give on this is it cracks me up to this day. I still hear this all of the time. Oh man, I need somebody who can just come in and just kind of help me take care of everything like I do. Okay, and I'm like, dude, that's completely insane, right? I mean, like, in other words, like, first and foremost, entrepreneurs are a little bit broken. Nobody signs up for the level of stuff that we do without being a little bit broken. Okay, I mean, and
I argue with that.
I mean, it is what it is. I used to think everybody else was broken, then I realized it was actually us, because you got to be a little bit insane to take no 1,000 times to get up and say, I got it today. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you got to be a little bit whacked out to do that, right? But with that being said, the employees, man, they're accustomed to walking into a job and it's mapped out for them. This is the system you use. Here are the training videos to show you how to use the system. This is what time you clock in. This is the paperwork. This is A, B, C, D. That's what they trained for. That's what they went to college for. It's what they do. And if you don't give them a box to play in, and if you think your box is the entire digital marketing industry, go learn everything I've learned, you don't need to know split testing, word pressing, writing, copy, design, and everything else, and it fails, you need to really go look in the mirror, okay? Because that's not how an employee's mindset is. They want to go in their box, and they will do better in that box than they will astonish you. But if you expect them to learn an entire industry or anything along those lines, you will be very sadly disappointed.
Yeah. And if that employee turns out to not be a good fit, that is also your responsibility. Your responsibility not just to let them go as opposed to just, complaining behind the scenes or something like that, but to set up those resources so that you have a better screening system for the next hire and a better set of resources for the next hire as well.
No doubt. So, all right, number 5.
All right, number 5. So repurpose content across multiple platforms. Now, a lot of people are familiar with this idea, but they don't necessarily know fully what it means. So I just have 2 main things to remember about this.
Okay.
Number 1 is that whatever your anchor channel is, it can almost certainly be repurposed, right? If you're starting with video, you could start out by just producing transcripts. That's fairly affordable. That's super cheap, super easy, super simple, creates a written platform. You can also create a blog post based on it, a little bit more complex, but still relatively simple. Again, things other people can help you with as well. So basically, 1 is that a single channel can become many channels without doubling or tripling or exponentially growing the work.
What we do.
Yep. That's something that we do that we are continuing to expand, right? Like we've been thinking about going into video with our podcast for a long time because it doesn't require huge time consumer, which is editing as much, right? And therefore, for us, part of it too is in these times where everyone's panicking and stuff, we think that having a face you can look at and see and connect with is just so important, right? But we don't have to hire a whole new person, take on a whole new thing to do that because we're already doing the podcast as our anchor channel. Now, the other piece of this, though, is actually sharing your content more than you would expect or think. So what that means is that if you think every single person is reading every single thing you post on social media and clicking every link, nah, they are not. Even if Facebook wasn't like hiding half of your stuff from most of the people to begin with, people have a lot of stuff going on. Maybe they scroll and see something, they want to click on it later. Maybe they don't see it at all. So you can actually repurpose your content, not just across multiple platforms, but on the same platforms more than once when it's relevant, after it's been a certain amount of time, right? Like you can really, and I know for us, it felt like, but we're wasting people's time by posting the same thing more than once. But the people who listen to it and engage the second time, or who read it and engage when, it is contextually appropriate to do so, maybe there's something crazy.
Exactly. Their mindset just might be different. They might be in a different phase. I mean, the coronavirus might have hit, and next thing you know, the whole world changes, and next thing you know, now you see this article and it's relative to you. You know what I mean? So,
exactly.
I mean, it always cracks me up. I need the exact process of how to do this, and I'm like, under what context? I mean, you understand? Is it raining today? Is it sun shining today? I mean, in other words, the world every single day changes almost whether you like it or not. You know what I'm saying?
Every day.
No doubt. Yeah. So a real quick overview of mine. That's exactly it. We record the video, so I've always found kind of if you start at the top, and then in other words, if you just wrote an article, that's one thing. You can't really do a whole lot with that. Now, if you did a video and you can take that video and slice it down into different graphics, because you can just pull any frame out, right? Mm-hmm. Put it into transcription. You put it into all the Buzzsprout and everything else that Buzzsprout does, and Stitcher, podcast, iHeart, Shopify, I'm sorry.
Yep. Many different
Spotify, I'm sorry. You can all the podcast platforms. And then, of course, we put it on YouTube. And then, of course, from all of that, we actually run Facebook ads and LinkedIn ads to different YouTube ads. And so just straight from the podcast, it gives us all the medium to basically for an entire month. And it's more than one day. I have to spend a little bit more time than one day, but basically recording the content one day, and then I'll spend another day or a day and a half working with the team and everything to kind of get it out and produced and all that fun stuff. So, but it makes a big difference, So get that stuff out there and create it once, repurpose it 1,000 times, Again, in this video, I'm not going to, but if I wanted to, we could probably come in here and pull out 7 or 8, 10 different snippets. That would be awesome. 1 or 2 minute little quick snippets. Hey, what's this? Real quick. But I'm not going to do that. We're going to do podcasts. But it's very easily done. You can easily do that. So I love it. I absolutely love it. So Well, Say, thank you so much for taking this out. I love your energy. I just love it. I love this 5-part framework. So is there anything you'd like to, first off, say it ain't, so what was the name of your podcast?
Say it online.
Okay. Say it
online. Yeah.
Say it online, and then give me your URL. How do people get in touch with you? Why do they want to get in touch with you and learn more about you, and what you can have? Maybe you can help them, or how can you help other agencies? Tell us a little bit about it. This is the shameless plug moment right here.
Shameless plug moment. Awesome. Okay, so if you're just interested in anything that we've talked about, and you're curious about just you have questions, you're interested in digging in a little bit deeper, feel free to email me personally. Reach out to me personally. Email is probably the best way. It takes me a few days to get back, but my email address is say@, and I'll say it, then I'll spell it. So anancycontent.com. That's A-N as in Nancy, A-N as in Nancy, SICONTENT.com. And you're also welcome to go to the website itself. Now, really who we serve, like who's the best fit for us to partner with, as Lee mentioned at the beginning, so we work with primarily digital agency leaders who are having problems with content, especially their content process. We have a 4-part framework for our own business that works on basically some sort of initial foundation strategy and messaging anchors, some foundation copy, and we actually build out a whole growth strategy as well. So all that info is on anancycontent.com. Again, ANANSICONTENT.com, and you can book a call right from there if you're interested in chatting. So
yeah, we're going to put that in the notes, the podcast notes. We'll come out and we'll be in the. We're going to put this will be in the blog, so we'll put it in the blog. We'll put all those links and stuff in there. Say it online. We'll try to hunt down. I'll come find you if I can't find them. Okay, well, Say thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and explaining your process. And this is some really good tips. I hope everybody out there got a few good nuggets out of this. This is Lee. I'm going to be signing off on the Agency Success GPS podcast. And so everybody out there have a wonderful day. Say bye, Say.
Bye, everybody. Have a great day.
Hello, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And of course, let's get you over to the next episode. If you have not already, make sure to subscribe to my podcast. And if you are not following us on YouTube or in our private Facebook group, make sure to get over there and check those out as well. And of course, we're also always available at marketingagencycoach.com. Look forward to seeing you at all those channels. And I hope you're having a wonderful day.